His first story is The Ghost in the Wire. In the 1990s, the FBI was hunting a phantom, a criminal who could vanish into the telephone network without a trace. They called him the most dangerous hacker in the world, capable of stealing millions with nothing but a dial tone. His name was Kevin Mitnick, and for years, he was the true ghost in the wire. Mitnick wasn't just cracking codes, he was a master of social engineering, hacking people rather than machines. With a confident voice and a fake ID badge, he talked his way into server rooms and convinced admins to hand over passwords. He started as a phone freak, manipulating the national telephone grid to route calls through untraceable loops across the country. By the mid-90s, he was a fugitive, living a double life and staying one step ahead of a massive federal manhunt. He cloned cell phones and monitored the very agents who were chasing him, listening to their plans before they even left the office. But the ghost made a fatal mistake on Christmas Day 1994 when he hacked the personal computer of security expert Sutomura Shimomura. Shimomura took the intrusion personally and decided to help the FBI, turning the hunt into a high-stakes digital duel. Using a modified cellular frequency antenna, Shimomura drove through the streets, tracking the invisible data packets floating in the air. The signal led them to an apartment complex in Raleigh, North Carolina, where the ghost was finally cornered. On February 15, 1995, the FBI kicked down the door, finding Mitnick surrounded by cloning cables and stolen data. The media frenzy was hysterical, with prosecutors claiming he could launch nuclear missiles just by whistling into a payphone. Terrified of his skills, the government held him in solitary confinement, completely cut off from any technology. He became a symbol of the digital age's anxieties, sparking a global Free Kevin movement among the hacker community. After 5 years in prison, Mitnick was released, but he was banned from using the internet or touching a computer for years. Eventually, the world's most famous black hat hacker switched sides, becoming a white hat security consultant. He spent the rest of his life teaching companies that the biggest security flaw isn't in the software, but in the human beings running it. Kevin Mitnick passed away in 2023, leaving behind a legacy that proved no system is unhackable if you know the right words to say. He showed us that in a world of wires and signals, the most powerful tool is often just the human voice. Second story, The Island of the Golden Death. Imagine a lush tropical paradise floating in the ocean off the coast of Brazil, looking like the perfect secret vacation spot. But stepping foot on this island is strictly illegal, and doing so would likely be the very last thing you ever do. This is Ilha da Que Mara Grande, known to the locals and the terrified world simply as Snake Island. It is the only place on Earth home to the golden lancehead viper, one of the deadliest and most evolved snakes in existence. About 11,000 years ago, rising sea levels cut this island off from the mainland, trapping the snakes with no ground-level prey. To survive, they had to evolve to hunt the only food source available to them, migratory birds resting in the canopy. But there was a catch. If the snake bit a bird and it flew away before dying, the meal was lost forever in the ocean. So nature engineered a terrifying solution: venom that is 3 to 5 times more potent than that of their mainland cousins. This venom is fast-acting and hemotoxic, meaning it actually melts flesh and causes massive internal bleeding almost instantly. The density of these vipers is the stuff of nightmares, with estimates once claiming there was 1 snake for every single square meter. If you were to walk through these woods, you would essentially never be more than 3 feet away from a painful death. Local legends tell the chilling story of the island's last lighthouse keeper and his family in the 1920s. One night, it's said that snakes started slithering in through the open windows, driving the terrified family out into the dark forest. In their desperate panic to reach their boat, they ran blindly through the trees, triggering strike after strike from the branches above. When the Navy arrived, they found the entire family dead, their bodies scattered along the path just yards from the shore. Today, the lighthouse is fully automated, and the Brazilian government strictly prohibits anyone from setting foot on the island. The only exceptions are select brave biologists, who must be accompanied by a doctor with specialized antivenom at all times. Despite the danger, biopirates still risk their lives to smuggle these rare snakes, selling them on the black market for a fortune. Ironically, because they exist nowhere else on Earth, the golden lancehead is actually critically endangered. It is a strange paradox where the deadliest place in Brazil is also a fragile ecosystem that needs protection from humans. For now, the island of the Golden Death remains a forbidden kingdom, ruled by serpents and best admired from very, very far away.
Third story, the tsunami of syrup. Imagine a tsunami crashing through a city street, destroying everything in its path. Now imagine that wave isn't water, but 2 million gallons of boiling hot, sticky molasses. This sounds like the plot of a bad movie, but on January 15, 1919, in Boston's North End, this nightmare became a reality. A massive steel tank, 50 feet tall, loomed over the neighborhood, filled to the brim with fermented molasses destined for alcohol production. Residents knew the tank was a ticking time bomb. It leaked so badly that neighborhood children would bring cups to collect the sweet drippings from the side. On that unseasonably warm afternoon, the thermal expansion inside the tank pushed the structural rivets past their breaking point. Suddenly, the air was ripped apart by a sound like machine gun fire as the rivets shot out and the tank split wide open. A 25-foot-high wall of dark sludge collapsed onto the streets, moving at a terrifying 35 miles per hour. The force was unlike anything water could produce, because molasses is so dense it hit the neighborhood with the impact of a solid freight train. Buildings were smashed instantly, knocked off their foundations, and crushed into kindling by the sheer weight of the syrup. The wave even struck the elevated railway tracks, twisting the steel girders like pretzels and nearly toppling a train car passing overhead. As the wave spread out, it began to cool in the winter air, turning from a crushing force into a sticky, inescapable quicksand. Men, women, and horses struggled to move, but the harder they fought, the deeper they sank into the suffocating muck. First responders arrived at a scene from hell, wading through knee-deep syrup to pull survivors from the debris. The streets looked like they had been dipped in chocolate, but the reality was a gruesome mix of wreckage and ruin. By the time the syrup settled, 21 people had lost their lives, and another 150 were injured. Cleaning up the disaster took weeks, requiring fireboats to pump salt water from the harbor to wash the hardening molasses away. The owners tried to blame anarchists, but investigations proved the tank was poorly designed and negligently overfilled. This disaster led to one of the first major class action lawsuits in history, changing engineering and safety regulations forever. It stands as a bizarre but tragic lesson, proving that even something as sweet as syrup can become a deadly force of nature. Locals claim that even today, on hot summer days in the North End, you can still catch the faint, sweet scent of molasses.